Welcome back to the Avian and Loaded channel and another edition of Action Figure Obsession. Asking today's question, whoops, you might have gotten a good look there. But the question is, what's in the box? So, I don't know that in all the videos that I've done on this channel, which is really a startling number, I don't know that I have ever mentioned my childhood and adult love of Star Trek. And as I talked about in my last video, okay, here's good old JT, Captain James Tiberius Kirk. As I talked about in my last video, at one point I had over 400 of the Playmates Star Trek action figures. I had the Megos, the little like 7-inch Megos of Star Trek in the mid and late 70s. And when Star Wars hit and the toys got smaller, the Star Wars figures came out at 3 3/4 inches or 4 inches, whatever size those Kenner Star Wars figures were. I was getting older and my hands were getting bigger. And I was also kind of outgrowing, I thought, action figures. That's right. He outgrew his action figures. Everybody. He moved on to girls and sports and science magazines and all kinds of whatever. I did briefly think that I had outgrown them. That was the first purge when I gave all my action figures to my my nephew, but. It must have been around 1973, I think, when the Star Trek, the animated series debuted. Star Trek originally ran from 1966 to 1969, was canceled in 1969, and then Gene Roddenberry got the crew back together, and I think in 73, so I would have been 7, debuted Star Trek, the animated series, which ran, I think, something like 22 episodes total. There really weren't that many. And it was the animated series that first caught my attention as a young child. Saturday morning cartoons, which were definitely a thing back in my day. You'd get up before your parents on Saturday morning and you'd click on the TV at 7 a.m. and you'd be glued to it until 11 o'clock in the morning because there were just so many wall-to-wall cartoons, and a few of them were even good. And for me, Star Trek the Animated Series was a revelation. I had no idea this thing existed, this Adventures of the Starship Enterprise. The animation is a little primitive by today's standards, but I actually really like it when I go back and look at those animated series episodes, because it was hand-painted. Some of the animation cells, the backgrounds are absolutely stunning to look at. They're like psychedelic pop art, a lot of them, because they're depicting alien worlds and aliens in a way that they never could on the original Star Trek due to budget limitations and having to, make costumes and have makeup work on real human bodies and that sort of thing. Well, they didn't have any of those concerns with the animated series. So you had a much wider palette available of creative options. And they did those 22 episodes. I'm going to say of the 22, there's like 3 that are really, really good, like as good as any episode of the original series, and then the rest are sort of okay to mediocre to terrible. But they do feature most of the original cast. They did not hire Walter Koenig back, who had played Ensign Chekhov on the original Star Trek. But I think everybody else from the big 7 of the main cast were there. William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, DeForest Kelley, James Doohan, Nichelle Nichols, and George Takei, oh my, and Gene Roddenberry's wife, Majel Barrett, was back playing Nurse Chapel. And the 2 sort of utility players on the show who basically did most or all of the alien voices, or if they met other people from Starfleet, other starships, that sort of thing. James Doohan, Scotty from Star Trek, and Majel Barrett, who had played Nurse Chapel on the original series. She also played Number 1, the ship's first officer in the original pilot, The Cage, that was filmed in 1964 but didn't air on broadcast television until the 80s. Kind of a curiosity, and technically speaking, not canon to the original series, but The Cage was the introduction of Captain Pike. And his number one, played by Majel Barrett, was the first officer. And then there was Mr. Spock, played by Leonard Nimoy, was in The Cage, that original 1964 pilot, but he was not the first officer. He was not yet Spock, if you ever watched The Cage. He's a very unspocky Spock. It took them a few episodes to really nail the character of Spock, and once they did, of course, Leonard Nimoy's Spock is probably a top 3 or 4 contender for the greatest TV show characters of all time, and one of the great performances of all time on television, and certainly Leonard Nimoy's lifetime achievement. And I'm quite certain that he got a Lifetime Achievement Award of some kind for that. So I had about 400 of the little 4-inch Playmates figures. I don't have any examples of that to show you, but they were rather simple, rather limited articulation. I think they had a little more than 5 points of articulation, maybe 7 or 8. But they were not great, but they were the only game in town back in the 80s, when late 80s, when Star Trek The Next Generation reignited my interest in Star Trek, when they came in with Captain Picard and Riker and Deanna Troi and Data and all those characters. And I remember going to a Caldor store at a shopping mall in northern New York, thinking I was going to get all those figures. I wanted the figures, to collect the Star Trek The Next Generation figures. And it turned out that that line had been around for like a year, and you could only get at that point alternate universe, or not alternate universe. Well, so in some cases, I think alternate universe, but alternate uniforms for them. They did not have any kind of an evergreen line for the Star Trek The Next Generation figures. So if you didn't get the original bridge crew in their original bridge costumes, you were pretty much shit out of luck. But they'd keep releasing the same characters over and over again. You wanted Data. Well, here's Data as, a cowboy, or here's Worf as whatever. A pirate. So that was kind of infuriating, but eventually I did manage, through eBay and whatever other sources that I had, to track down. I'm going to say at one time I probably had 90 to 95% of all of the Playmates 4-inch figures, and a good number of these 9-inch figures that I'm about to show you. I had a lot more of the 9-inch figures than I'm about to show you, but these are the ones that I kept, either because nobody wanted them on Facebook Marketplace when I purged all these figures, which would be the case here for Constable Odo from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Nobody wanted him. Captain Kirk I kept because, well, it's Captain motherfucking Kirk, and what can I tell you? Interestingly, the figures, especially the original series figures like Captain Kirk, I think hew closer to the look from the animated series than they do the actual TV show. This is not your digital face print Marvel Cinematic Universe style interpretation. This is more of a simplified, I was going to say simpleton, but not simpleton, but simplified, minimalistic. Yes, that's definitely William Shatner, but it's also, sort of pleasantly cartoony, I guess I would say. And Odo's a good figure too. It's a pretty good representation. Oh boy, weak legs even with the 9-inchers. It's a pretty good representation of Rene Auberjonois, his character Odo on Deep Space Nine, who was a shapeshifter and who could never quite get human features right, but could turn himself into, the most scariest or weirdest of space aliens. And I just happened to grab him, for the excitement of showing you that we're going to be looking at more than just Captain Kirk here. But not a lot more than Captain Kirk. There's only a few in the box, and almost all of the rest of them I kept out of the love of the character. So, and this was a line, this 9-inch line. Get some dust off this guy. The 9-inch line had some store exclusives. I think some of these that you're going to see were Target exclusives, and it's sort of varying costume designs and so forth, representing different eras of the show. Boy, I hope these guys stand up. I don't know how much I can do about their feet. I'm not sure if there's a lot of articulation here. These are not terribly, you get elbows and knees, but that's about it. And a head swivel. So I mentioned Captain Picard, of course, as played by the great Sir Patrick Stewart. There he is, and his number one, of course, Jeannie Francis from General Hospital's husband, Jonathan Frakes, Commander Riker. And see if we can get him to stand up. Oh boy, this little Riker maneuver. It's all I'm asking for, buddy. All right, and interestingly, now, as you can see, if you are a Star Trek fan, you probably already realized that Riker is in the season 3 and forward uniform, while Picard is wearing the Generations movie uniform, I believe. And correct me if I'm wrong. Feel free to leave a comment. But I think that's what's going on there. Of course, Captain Kirk is in his, season 1 Star Trek look. And I actually have his look from the pilot that Captain Kirk debuted in. They did a second pilot for the series after the cage was rejected, called Where No Man Has Gone Before, where Captain Kirk wore more of a turtleneck. He didn't have the black collar, and I do actually have a character wearing that shirt. So I could actually technically kit bash this Captain Kirk into a first appearance Captain Kirk if I wanted to. I don't think I'm going to. I'm certainly not going to in this video. But let's see who's next in the box. So Bella from the planet Charon was an antagonist in a, I believe, 3rd season episode called Let That Be Your Last Battlefield. He was a police officer on a planet run by racists. He was chasing down a vile, hated terrorist criminal. And why was he hated by Frank Gorshin's character Bella? Frank Gorshin, by the way, was the Riddler on the 1966 Star Trek, and this is probably one of the best face sculpts you're ever going to see in this Star Trek 9-inch line. I mean, that is Frank Gorshin right there. If you remember the Riddler from the 1966 Batman TV series or any of Frank Gorshin's other memorable characters that he played. Just kidding, the only characters I remember him playing were the Riddler and Bella here. I believe he was Bela or Bela. It was I guess it would be Bela, like Bela Lugosi. And the other guy was Lokai, Lokai, that he was chasing. He had to chase this fearsome, horrible terrorist that was so despised by this man's people because of the racism. You understand that Lokai was black on the left side and white on the right side. This guy was racially pure. He was black on the right side and white on the left side. See what I'm saying? So it was basically Star Trek's commentary on the stupidity and uselessness and futility of racism. It was really, it was heavy-handed, and yet it was very apt. I'm sure a lot of people were made deeply uncomfortable by the heavy-handedness of the metaphor in the story. But the whole episode is spent with this guy talking about how despicable Lokai is. And the revelation, the look on Kirk and Spock's face when they find out that the reason why he hates him so much is because Lokai is white on the right side and left on the black on the, I can't even remember it. Lokai was white on the right side and black on the left side. So he was disgusting and hideous, unlike this guy, who is, handsome and the sheer example of just how people are supposed to look on their planet, Charon. And then, spoilers for this episode, Let That Be Your Last Battlefield. They finally get to Charon, after chasing each other across the universe for, I don't know, tens of thousands of years, if I recall correctly. And they discover that everyone is dead. They've all killed each other because of their racism, because people were black on the wrong side and white on the wrong side. And the only two people left alive from their entire planet are the two of them, Bela and Lokai. And they beam down to the planet and continue their war. And that, if there's a better metaphor for racism and its stupidity and futility than that, I really don't know what it would be. Let's see. Now, the box these guys are in is rather large because they're big figures. They're not as big as the 12-inch ones that I showed you, but I've got it kind of precariously balanced here. All right, we'll do this one next because I have a few of the stands left. Stands were quite nice for these, actually. I mean, I don't know what that font is supposed to be. It would have been nice if they had used a more Star Trek-y font. I mean, maybe that was the font from their, quarters of their door. It does kind of look like that now that I think about it. This one does not go with this Captain Kirk, however, because this is the Generations era communication pin, badge, whatever you want to call it. So that means that one goes with, and this was one of the ones that I knew I was never going to let go of, never let get away. See if I can get him on the stand here. Come on. Come on, it's been a long time. There we go. And he'll stand up much better with the stand. This is Admiral James T. Kirk. Well, actually, this may be his cap when he was captain. I'm not sure if he was an admiral or not in Generations. I can't remember. He went back and forth because they kept promoting him and demoting him over the course of the movies. But to me, this is the Wrath of Khan Kirk, right? You know, I've done far worse than kill you, Kirk. I've hurt you, and I wish to go on hurting you. Khan, I shall leave you as you left her, alone in the center of a dead planet, buried alive. Buried alive. Khan! Yeah, I had to do that. I got that out of my system. I've seen that movie. It's got to be hundreds of times at this point. Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Absolutely the best Star Trek movie. Possibly just the best Star Trek, period. I mean, I love the original series for what it is, which is a, old-fashioned episodic, but also, like, serious sort of theater production, science fiction story. Great with Shakespearean, well, not necessarily Shakespearean, but definitely trained actors who, were committed to their craft. So this is the Wrath of Khan / Generations look for Kirk. You'll notice that the Kirks have different head sculpts, which Hasbro would have never done. They probably would have just tried to fake it in the face print or in the face deco, the paint deco. But, movie Kirk here is a little jowlier, a little more puffy-faced. He's not the lean, handsome ladies' man, slightly baby-faced that he was back in 1966. Now it's 1983 to 19... when did Generations come out? 19... Let's see. Kirk 1966, and Kirk, I think it was 1992 or 1993, the Generations came out. But this is probably my favorite of these 9-inch figures, both because I love the movie and because, like with Bella, they just knocked it out of the park with the head sculpt. Playmates is not a company that I use the words knocked it out of the park with the head sculpt very often. Picard is okay. He's pretty good. You can tell it's Sir Pat, but it's a little broad. Riker is a little broad. They did get his striking blue eyes, though. I used to have striking blue eyes. I don't know what happened there. They're kind of turning gray now, like everything else. But anyway, yeah, that's an example of the stands. I don't think I have many, if any. I don't have any of the weapons. I probably threw them in as extras when I was getting rid of these in huge, lots of 20 or 30 figures on eBay. I want to save the best for last here. You may recall that there was an episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine where some of the crew from Deep Space Nine went back in time to the era of The Trouble with Tribbles, and some of the characters had to dress up in the original series costumes. And just trying to get something onto one of these stands here because this guy's legs feel very loose. Where's that peg hole? Here, come on, get it in there. God damn it. All right, I'm going to put the phone down for a second. Sorry about that. Space, the final frontier. It's dark in space. There aren't even any stars. Just nothing but endless night. And we're back. So this is a little kayfabe fakery. I did some kit bashing with some of these figures. This is another excellent head sculpt. This Benjamin Sisko head sculpt is absolutely striking. Clearly Avery Brooks in the house. He's wearing, actually, as I mentioned, the Kirk pilot costume before, when he had the turtleneck and he didn't have the black collar. This is from Where No Man Has Gone Before. This was me putting together something with the pieces that I had left over from another kit bash that I did with some of these characters. It was so long ago I don't even remember, but I do believe that when Avery Brooks's character Captain Cisco was on that episode of the Trouble, where they went back to the Trouble with Tribbles. I forget what the name of that episode was, but it was probably something really simple that I'm forgetting. But I think he did have the gold Starfleet shirt. He would have had the black collar, I believe. I don't think he was wearing blue or red. I'm pretty sure he was wearing yellow. Plus, Well, anyway, that's what I had. And so he lost his uniform, which I think was probably, in fact, it's possible he got, that Captain Picard got his uniform. I'm not entirely certain. Again, it's been a long time since I've even hauled these guys out of the box. But, my headcanon, not that it really matters for characters that you keep in the closet, because I really don't have a place to store these guys, or display these guys, rather. But the headcanon would be that this is the Cisco from the Tribbles episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Now we're getting down to nothing but good stuff. Really good stuff. And the next to last Captain Kirk here is the Tholian Web Captain Kirk. Now, if you're not a Star Trek fan and you don't know what this is, you're like, that's colorful. If you're a Star Trek fan, if you're a true fan, and if you've never seen this before, you're probably like, holy shit, it's the Tholian Web Captain Kirk. Oh my God. Oh my God. And I still get that feeling when I look at it. This is the environment suit, or the outer space suit that they wore in the Trouble with Tribbles and a few other episodes of Star Trek, the original series. And this must have cost a fortune, factory worker paycheck wise, because it's got all these, and these are just basically thread, I think, fabric, these tubes that are going up from his foot, where you'd have something that you definitely would want to go all the way up to your breathing apparatus. For a 9-inch Playmates soft goods figure, it's got the foil. I don't know what this material is. That looks like something Elvis would have worn. And then one of the coolest things about this one, if I can make it work. Oh, it's more complicated than I remembered. Hold on. All right, we're going to go back to outer space. Space, the final frontier. It is so super dark out here in space. I can't even believe it. Okay. Let's see if I can really zhuzh it up for you. Kayfabe it. Make this work. Come on, Jimmy. All right, I'm going to settle for that. So here he is with his helmet off, holding his helmet. And I'll show you the helmet. I forgot, see the little tab there on the little peg? That tabs into the thingy here on the left side of his face, our right. So this is the helmet. This is the encounter suit or environmental suit or space suit helmet. And I was so impressed when I first got this figure that the helmet came off. Now, the other Captain Kirk, I think it's the same head sculpt. But Captain Kirk way there in the back has a nice matte finish on his flesh tone. This guy, because he's been in that suit, man, he is a sweaty Betty. Look at that. He is so shiny. Absolutely. It's very shiny in space, isn't it, Jimmy? And you can kind of see, if you see the flesh tone on his lower neck there, where he's heading down to the collarbone. I don't know if his face is like fully painted or what. He's got some lipstick on, that's for sure. But the flesh tone doesn't seem to match. The flesh tone of the head doesn't match the body. Can you see that? And I'm thinking maybe this head is starting to discolor a little, or maybe it was just always this weird looking. I don't remember it having this sort of orange look that it has compared to the rest of the figures. One exception of, well, two exceptions, of course. Then, so that's the second coolest figure. I would say Bella is the number 3 best in terms of just the design and to the extent that they really nailed what was needed. Well, damn, I just love that one so much. All right, Bella number 4, Wrath of Khan Kirk number 3, Foley and Webb Kirk number 2. Okay? Write that all down. I want you to remember the order. Hopefully I won't have to send you back to outer space for this one. I remember him getting on the peg pretty easy. Yep. Okay, now twist. Twist again like we did last summer. All right. Oh, this guy is dusty. I forgot how. No, and he's got weak legs too, friends. Weak legs, and he's all dusty. Boy, do I know that feeling. Do I ever? All right, I'm just not going to put him on the stand. I'll show you the stand, but this is the Borg. Don't you dare knock everybody over. I mean, I know that's what the Borg are good at, but I was trying to get him on. This was the most complicated, involved stand in this line. Very cool stand for the Borg. That's, I guess, their symbol, even though, they're a hive mind. I don't know why they need a symbol, but it is it. This must have cost a fortune in tooling, because all of these plastic pieces, needed to be tooled for this, and then they had to pay somebody to attach them all to the figure. I guess they didn't want to build a new body that had the Borg parts on it other than the head. I don't think this is supposed to be any Borg in particular, but as a sort of Gestalt Borg of, just the typical Borg, it's pretty fearsome looking. It's pretty scary if you're familiar with the Borg and the horrificness of, they killed his wife, for starters. Sisko's wife. They killed her. This is, I think, my favorite design of all of these 9-inch figures, and I'm including all the ones that I got rid of. Obviously, most of these, other than Odo and, my Kit Bash Sisko. I mean, I love Sisko, but that's not the original look for that figure. But other than the two of them, I kept all of these out of a great deal of nostalgia and respect and affection for the characters and for the actors. The Borg one I just kept because it's so fucking cool. I mean, this rivals anything that you could get today, I think. Not in articulation, because it's still rather limited in its articulation. The feet don't swivel. It's really hard to get these guys to stand up, and the knees are weak, and it's hard to get them to stand up straight. I mean, I guess I could take them apart and liberally soak them in some Kiki's loose joint fix, and that might help. Then again, it might not. But, yeah, the Borg is absolutely far and away the best one, without question. Then the Tholian Webb, Captain Kirk, and then Bela, just for the resemblance to Frank Gorshin and the simplicity of it and the beauty, and then Wrath of Khan, Captain Kirk. But that leaves 2 more, which are also cool, and I'm really glad I have them. But they're problematic for the one accessory that I still have for them. They used to come with weapons, but I lost those or sold them or did something with them. I don't know. I've been doing this action figure collecting and wheeling and dealing for longer than you've probably been alive. 54 years I've been collecting action figures. The only other 2 things that are left in the box, other than the 2 figures, are the stand, 2 more stands, which would be fine for them, except they don't match, and this is kind of a matched set. These, I believe, were Target exclusives. I think they were numbered figures, even. This is... Oh, am I going to even be able to remember the name of the episode? Damn it. It's the episode where they went to the gangster planet. The planet that Starfleet had been to like 100 years earlier and left behind a book about Chicago, like a gangster era Chicago in the 20s. And they built their whole civilization around the rules of the gangster civilization. And Kirk and Spock, in order to blend in, wore these incredible. Look at these outfits. I mentioned that they came with weapons. They came with Tommy guns, my friends. They came with Tommy guns. Look at Captain Kirk's tie with the polka dots, and Spock's got a jaunty red pocket square. He's got a pocket square too. I mean, the suits are identical. I think they're just painted different, or not painted, but different patterns. The likenesses, and it makes me sad. This is the only Spock that I have. I had all the, I think, 9-inch Spocks. I had the pilot from the Cage Spock, and I had the regular season 1 through 3 Spock, and I don't know if I had a movie Spock or not. I'm not even sure if they made one actually, but the hats come off, and that's the problematic part because the hats always fall off. I can just put these gently back in the box, and when I open it up, the hats will be on the other side of the box. Kirk thankfully has more of the matte finish on his flesh tone rather than the sweaty Betty back there with his encounter suit. But, that suit looks like it'd be pretty hot to wear, so we can forgive it and understand it. But, yeah, so, like I said, the Borg and the Tholian Web Kirk and Bella and Generations Kirk, probably my top 4, but the fun factor of these two cannot be denied. The gangster, Kirk and Spock, a piece of the action. That was the name of the episode, because they promise this little kid that helps them overthrow Mel from Mel's Diner. If you ever saw the TV show Alice, Vic Tayback, he plays one of the mob bosses in the episode, a piece of the action. And Kirk and Spock need a favor from a little kid. They need the kid to distract some gangsters so they can break in and try to set things right on this insane planet that's completely run by the mob, the whole planet. And everybody's mobbed up on this show, including this little 8-9-year-old boy. And they're, Kirk is doing his Chicago accent. Hey kid, I need you to help us out. Do me a favor, will you? And the kid's like, what do I get out of it? And Kirk's like, first of all, he's shocked that the kid is so selfish and self-interested, but everybody on the entire planet seems to be kind of like Earth. And and Kirk goes, well, I'll give you a piece of the action. And the kid's like, a piece of the action? And Kirk's like, yeah, a piece of the action. The kid's like, all right, I'll take a piece of the action. I'm roughly quoting, but that's the gist of it. That's why the episode was called A Piece of the Action. And it worked. Eventually they overthrew the planet, but at the end of the episode, spoiler, Dr. McCoy, I think, realized that he left something behind on the planet. And then, 100 years later, they figured they would go back and the planet would have, been taken over by rectal thermometers or whatever it was that he left behind. And their whole culture would be based around rectal thermometers. It wasn't rectal thermometers. But honestly, you know me better now that you know that was the first piece of medical equipment that came to mind was, I'm going to say it one more time for the algorithm, rectal thermometers. So, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Is there anything else I should highlight or talk about? What do you think? You got a favorite here? You got one that you think looks cooler than any of the others? One that you think is the very best and you're really glad you never let it get away? I mean, do you have one? I'm not sorry I still have the gangster guys. I did put them up on Facebook Marketplace at one point because I got sick of, screwing around with the hats. Like, for example, it's just now occurring to me, and I've had these figures for 30 years. It's just now occurring to me. I have confused the hats before and not been sure which hat goes with which. Now I realize that the hat bands are the visual clue. Kirk's hat band is clearly for Kirk, and Spock's hat band is clearly for Spock. I don't know that I ever realized that before. Wow, boy, I really can be clueless, I gotta tell you. So, anyway, for Captain Benjamin Sisko and Commander William T. Riker and Captain James T. Kirk and Bella of Sharon and Odo, the shapeshifter, and Sweaty Betty and Captain Picard and Admiral Kirk, where can I find Admiral Kirk? You weren't betting on a Ricardo Montalban impression today, were you? The Borg. And Chicago's finest, promising to give you a piece of the action. Thank you for joining me for this special Star Trek edition of Action Figure Obsession. They're beautiful, aren't they? I mean, I'd say that I regret getting rid of, scores of these 9-inch figures and literally hundreds of the 4-inch ones, but my God, where would I live if I had kept all this stuff over a lifetime of collecting action figures. Maybe purging every once in a while is a survival tactic. I don't know. That is everything that was in the box, as you can see. No more accessories, no more nothing. That's just a piece of the cardboard. Okay. Yep, that was the box that they're in. Big banker's box, like a coffin for my Star Trek figures. If I had a bigger house that was twice this size, I might find a place for these guys. I think they deserve a place of honor, a piece of the action, if you will. Did you enjoy this one? If you did, please give it a thumbs up, if you didn't like it, then give it a thumbs down. I don't care. Maybe you're a Star Wars guy. I've got Star Wars figures. We can talk about those. Tell me if you want me to do that. Comment. Any questions? Any reminiscing about Star Trek? Or did you have any of these in your collection? Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you're updated the next time that I upload a video. And share this with all your Trekkie friends. Live long and prosper. For Action Figure Obsession, I'm Avian and Loaded, and I will see you on the next Action Figure Obsession.